There are 7 weeks left in the NBA regular season, if you can believe it. Celtics, what are their top priorities? Seeding, Derrick White, Grant Williams. We're going to talk about all those things. And we'll go back to the All-Star quote board to make good and start off with a positive quote right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. And I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast that goes directly into your device, waiting for you to listen to it, but only if you're a subscriber. That's the only way that happens. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. You can watch the show on YouTube, hop into the comments section. Let us know what you think of the Celtics, of the show, of us, whatever. That's fine. Do that there. Let us know. I'm John Karalis. I used to play once upon a time, and now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've also written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. And as someone suggested on Twitter, I should add this to my Twitter intro. Bob Ryan said a nice thing about me on Twitter. That's going to probably, I think, be a permanent part of my, bio, my resume is going to be right at the top. So I was psyched. Bob Ryan liked the Kendrick Perkins event, and he had a nice thing to say about me. And okay, I'm just going to relay this one little thing before I get time out. I was sitting there. I'm fine. Like, I don't care. I've talked to athletes. I've talked to everybody. I don't give a damn who I talk to on stage. 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Doesn't bother me. None of that bothers me at all. I saw Bob Ryan walk into the Armory at Somerville, and I went, uh-oh. And I immediately walked backstage and started pacing like, Bob Ryan's here, Bob Ryan's here, Bob Ryan's here. So when he said something nice to me on Twitter, I'm still gushing about that. That's it. I just got to relay that. I feel like I'm running back from high school saying, oh my God, she said she liked me. So, all right, I'm calming down. Later on, we're going to get into this conversation about the things that we're looking forward to for the rest of this regular season, the 23 games that are remaining. But I feel like we owe you guys a make good conversation. First, by the way, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Our conversations about Jaylen and Jayson yesterday they went to places. We explored the entirety of their comments. And they went to places where it was like, well, it could also mean this, and people didn't like some of the depths to which we discussed that. And now let me bring Tom Westerholm in because he was complicit in the discussions that went into places. So, Tom, can we give people a make good on a comment from All-Star that is absolutely nothing but positive?
No. Yes, of course we can.
Well, thanks for joining the show, Tom. Yeah, let's.
Listen, if you can't love us at our. What's the Marilyn Monroe quote?
Oh yeah,
if you don't love me at my poop joke, you won't.
you don't deserve me at my make good podcast.
That's right.
That's the exact quote from Marilyn Monroe.
I knew it.
Very famous quote. So Jayson Tatum was asked at All-Star. We'll start with this. Besides yourself, is there a player in the league you'd love to see win a ring? And his answer was, nah, nobody. I got to get one first. Beautifully put, wonderfully put. Love that attitude. Won't even play along. Will not even entertain the thought. Won't even be like, oh yeah, if Kemba came back, wherever Kemba, I'd love to see Kemba come in and get a ring. So none of that. None of like, hey, Brad Beal is my brother. If anybody's going to get one, I'd be happiest for. Nope. Not even entertaining that at all. The only way he could have been better is if he had said, Not me. Okay. Probably like Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, any of those guys. I'd love to see them get a ring. Like that's probably the only other way you can answer that question and have it be great. But that's just a great comment, and that's our version. That's our mea culpa for those of you who are like, why are you talking about this though?
I maintain zero mea culpa, but I did think it was a great comment. I mean, look, like I think it's been really interesting to see just in real time what it's like to lose an NBA championship and what that and the ways that that kind of hardens you and turns you into kind of this like this just kind of steely competitor that Tatum
Yeah.
is becoming, because Tatum isn't, he's not somebody who's hyper intense all the time in his post game interviews or anything like that. Like he's a he's a pretty relaxed guy, but
Yeah.
losing in the finals affected him greatly. And I know we say that until we're blue in the face, like, oh, he really cares. He really cares.
Mhm.
But it changed some things about who he is. And I mean, in really good ways for the Celtics,
Yeah.
obviously. I think it really hammered home for him in some ways, like just how fragile some of this stuff is, right? Like you don't always get a chance to go to the finals. Who knows that better than Jayson Tatum, who tried and tried and tried and finally broke through and almost went up 3-1. He was so close to going up 3-1, and then just the Warriors rattle off all those wins. Like Tatum has been stung. Like he really, I think, hurt from that loss. And
Yep.
I think we're seeing that in kind of his demeanor, in the way that he's playing this season, and in comments like this, where it's just like, I'm not going to be happy this season if anybody else raises a trophy. Like
Yeah.
you said, it could be Kemba, it could be Brad Beal. I'm not going to be happy unless it's me. And
Yep.
I mean, that is the attitude you have to win a championship, because this is hard. Like winning a championship in the NBA is a hard thing to do, and it requires you to put yourself in certain mental spaces that it seems like Tatum now has the capacity to do. And that it's not a knock on him that he didn't before. You have to learn some things sometimes. Like you have to go through some experiences and some pain, and he did. And here he is on the other side. I think we'll see what happens. Like who knows? But mentally, I think he's in the right space that somebody has
Yeah.
to be kind of a finisher, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And that's like there's the lessons. They are hard lessons, especially there was all this complaint about the All-Star game and all of that. And the fact is that we live in rings culture. This is more so than ever. It's all about the rings, and no one cares necessarily about what you did. No one cares about the All-Star MVP. I mean, it's nice. It's nice for him. I'm happy for him, and it accomplished a personal goal. Great, you got a Kobe Bryant trophy in your trophy case. Awesome, good for you. I know how much you love Kobe, and it's possible that an All-Star MVP could start the narrative of, hey, if the Celtics finish, what do they need to finish? 18-5 to be a 60-win team, or somewhere in there. Like if they win 18, 19, 20 games to close out this season, and you go from All-Star game MVP to 60-win team to running away with the East. Hey, maybe the All-Star starts this narrative of Paul of I keep saying Paul Pierce. I don't know if this is Freudian or what, but of Jayson Tatum getting to league MVP. Good for him. But all that anybody really cares about is, will we see you waving from a duck boat down Boylston Street? That's all anybody wants to see. I don't care what trophy you hoist. I don't care whatever. As long as the last thing that you hold up is that O'Brien trophy and you wave to us from the parade route. That's it.
As long as you pull a Patrick Mahomes and just kind of drunkenly hand the Larry O'Brien trophy to a random fan along the parade route.
Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
At that point,
Yeah.
it's all good. All right, we are going to talk. Let's shift our conversation to these last 23 games and where we talked about the number one priority. I think this is the consensus amongst all the media. The number one thing anybody's talking about here is getting that starting lineup, its reps, and getting it in place and getting it ready for the playoffs. We talked about that in yesterday's podcast. Now what? What are the next priorities? I think it's getting that top seed. It's sorting out some of the roles, Derrick White, Grant Williams, and we'll see whatever else comes up. We're going to do that in just a second. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel, which currently still has the Boston Celtics as the favorites to win the championship. The Celtics go into it runaway favorites for the NBA championship. And hey, FanDuel is coming to Massachusetts soon, so you can hop onto that FanDuel app and make sure that if you want to lay some money down, you can do it at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet. This is cool. Up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Now, don't make your first bet Celtics to win the championship, because now you don't want that bonus bet. You want to win that one. Make your first bet something else. And if that loses, you can get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on anything you want. Money line, point scorers, three-pointers drained. It's all there. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss out on the chance to get your no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's where you're going to learn more. Make every moment count with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Please gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Head on over to the Locked On NBA feed. Just search for that where you get your apps. Search for it on YouTube. But on your audio apps, you're going to find 2 podcasts there. Locked On NBA, which I usually host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans. You're also going to find Game to Game, which is a nightly recap of all the games in the league with each side of the story, local hosts recording about a minute and a half or so of what happened in the game. So you get both sides of the story. It's a great recap of the night. And then Locked On NBA gets you in-depth coverage of the league. It's all wherever you get your podcasts. It's all on YouTube. Tom, dude, there are 7 weeks left in the NBA season. 7 weeks. That's it. How did that happen? First of all, how did we get to? We're still trying to figure things out. I feel like we're just getting started. How are we already at now 7 weeks? I got to start thinking about playoffs and booking hotels.
It's so wild. I was thinking about this the other day when Mazzulla got announced as the official head coach, because it was like simultaneously, it was like, how is the season this, like, how is this much season passed already? But also, how has it only been a few months since the Ime Udoka thing happened? Like,
so crazy.
Like just a
So
wild
crazy.
Stretch. A lot of stuff has happened this year.
A lot of stuff, man. And the Celtics are packing a lot into these last 7 weeks. They start off, this is the Thursday podcast, Thursday night, 7:00 at Indiana. It's a nice kind of ease back into the schedule. That Philly game on Saturday is going to be something else. And then you go to New York, then a few games at home. And it's really a road heavy. That stretch from Atlanta on March 11th, Atlanta, Houston, Minnesota, Portland, Utah on the back-to-back, and then finishing with Sacramento. Wow. That's going to be – now, luckily for Boston, most of those teams are okay at best. None of them are really good. Sacramento is debatably good. We can say Sacramento's good, but it's also Sacramento, so there's always like an asterisk. Like, they're good, but they're Sacramento.
Yeah.
This stretch is going to be tough. And Tom, I think one of the priorities here after figuring out this starting lineup, it has to be getting that top seed. They cannot mess around and fall to second. And they definitely can't mess around and fall to third, because things change drastically. That you have the potential for a second round. If you fall to second, you don't want to face Philadelphia in the second round. Even though I feel confident in the Celtics beating the Sixers, you don't want that. I don't want that. I'd rather face Cleveland in the second round. Just a more inexperienced, younger, more inexperienced team, less likely, I know that I don't trust Philly either, but that's still, I'd rather just go up against Cleveland and deal. I just don't trust. I feel like the Celtics could be better against them. But regardless, you want that 1-8 and then 1-4 and then deal with Milwaukee last. And hopefully you can sweep the 1-8 or make it in 5, and 1-4 can be maybe 6, but then you want to like have that rest for what will be the series. So I don't know, Tom. I think that whatever they do, they have to keep an eye on Milwaukee, and they have to make sure Milwaukee's won 12 in a row. You have to make sure that you're not letting them come in and steal that top seed.
I think if you're the Celtics, the piece of good news, right, coming out of this All-Star break after, like, yeah, Milwaukee just won 12 in a row. Like, that's a crazy run. The Bucks are hot. They're just an excellent basketball team. I do think the good news is, like, the Bucks have been this hot, and the Celtics still have this narrow little lead, right? Like, like, Milwaukee's not going to win every game the rest of the way, presumably, and like. Like assuming they cool off even a little bit, the Celtics have maintained their lead by still just kind of playing good basketball. Not like, not their best basketball of the season, but some nice wins, a couple of losses, a couple of shorthanded losses, that kind of thing. Not like there hasn't really been like a lot of concerning stuff on the Celtics end. It's just that the Bucks have been red hot and teams just don't stay that hot. So, if I'm the Celtics, that's one reason I'm kind of looking at this a little bit optimistically. It's just like just law of averages. What are the chances that Milwaukee, remains like this? And given that the Celtics, if things kind of even out a little bit over the course of the season, the Celtics have obviously been, the better team. They still have the lead. So
remaining strength of schedule.
Yeah, it's
going from
very
hardest,
close.
Yeah, going from hardest to easiest. The Celtics are 10th, Milwaukee is 11th, but by like a fraction. It's 50.9 percent winning percentage and 50.8 for Milwaukee. Milwaukee has one extra game to play after the break. That is, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, is that an advantage? Is it not I mean, if you can stay because they're tied in the loss column, you can say it's an advantage for Milwaukee because you just got to win one more time. But that makes the next Celtics Bucks game on March 23rd at Milwaukee extraordinarily important because that's the tiebreaker. They only play 3 times. The Celtics knowingly punted that game and almost won it, but went into it basically saying we know what we're doing. We'll just have to beat them that next time. That game right there might be the most important game left on the schedule.
I think there's no question it is. I mean, we'll see how things have shaken out by the time we get to it. It is kind of interesting. I think one of the reasons why the one of the I assume you're also on Tankathon looking up the strength of schedule remaining, but like with Milwaukee, like 2 of the easy games that they have left, like the quote unquote easy games, are against the Magic. And like, yeah, the Magic, not that great, but there's some firepower there. Like the Celtics can tell you, like that's not a bad team. So, that's something to keep an eye on too. Is like how like the Celtics have. I think both teams have a game against the Spurs still. Celtics, I believe, have a game against the Pistons. Like it's like those bad teams. Like you have to take care of them. But it will be interesting to see like kind of the mid tier bad teams, right? Like can they both take care of the Pacers? Can they both take care of the Can Milwaukee take care of the Magic? So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. But I think there's no question that that's the game for the rest of the season. Like that one and Saturday's game against the Sixers. I think those are the 2 that it's just like you kind of look at those and you're like, okay, the rest of the schedule will shake out how the rest of the schedule shakes out. But like if you win those, you're probably in pretty decent shape going forward.
The first game against my Orlando is March 1st for them. It's a back-to-back. They're at Brooklyn, then home against Orlando. So they come out and they play Miami, Phoenix. That's going to be interesting. Is KD going to be back at that point? We get a little sense of that.
Yep.
So Miami's going to have Kevin Love. I'm not going to say that changes the series or anything like that, changes a game or anything like that. But hey, it's a power forward with size and somebody that they need. So Who knows? Who knows that? But Miami is always the potential for being tough. Phoenix, that's an interesting game. Brooklyn, who knows? But that back-to-back is going to be interesting. They've got Philly and then at Washington on a back-to-back. Are any of these going to be rest days? Hey, Giannis has an injury.
Yes.
Giannis has a wrist injury.
Yes.
So, like, I kind of buried the lead on this. I don't know what his availability is going to be. All last I heard was he left All-Star and was going to go see a specialist in New York. That's not good. You don't go to see a specialist in New York for anything medical when things are great. You know, no one's going to say like, wow, man, you can suddenly bench press 700 pounds. You should go see a specialist in New York. That's not how it goes. So the specialists in New York are there to like cure you, save you, and that like to reverse bad news. So I don't that could be huge for them. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there was a there was an update since then. It was like he'll be able to return once the pain subsides. Basically, like it wasn't anything serious necessarily. But that aside, I mean, it's a wrist injury. Like it's it's worth keeping an eye on for sure, and certainly something that if you're the Bucks, if basically, like if you think of it as like maybe if the Celtics build back up like a 2-game lead, right? And it's kind of like questionable, can the Bucks like overcome this? At that point, you have to start thinking about like, okay, do we rest Giannis to try to get him to 100% before the playoffs and just sort of punt on trying to get the 1 seed? Like I think those types of things are in play for sure. Because like if the Celtics can kind of take care of business and build that little lead back up.
Look, come out, beat Indy, see if you can beat Philly, beat New York. You got those 3 games. If there's whenever I don't know when Giannis is coming back, but if that costs them a couple of these games, if the Celtics can win 3 and Milwaukee can come right out and lose 2 of 3, and that suddenly becomes a 3-game lead again, then right away that changes the entire dynamic of the rest of the schedule. Then, and actually, I think that adds a little bit more emphasis on that next Milwaukee game because like that could be the death blow. But regardless, that's somewhere where I think the Celtics can really, I think, put away the East. It's just the emphasis to me is just so important. It's just so important to get that top seed. I don't want to deal with. I'll put it this way: the last playoff run, the last finals run, we talk about Tatum and Jaylen running out of gas. I feel like them not cashing in opportunities to win earlier series, not closing out Milwaukee when they had a chance, not closing out Miami when they had a chance. Just those 2. Forget about all the minutes that they played in the regular season. Closing out Milwaukee and closing out Miami and not going to 7. That could have gotten them game 3 or game 4. That could have gotten them a 3-1 lead. Just everything being the same. Closing out that game right there is the difference in winning a championship and not winning a championship. And if they had closed out a couple of those series, just win 2 games, you wouldn't have had to put that extra mileage on their legs. So that's why that number 1 seed is super, super important to me. Also, Derrick White. Let's talk a little bit about Derrick White here.
Twist my arm.
Tom is mildly interested in Derrick White conversation because Derrick White has been just phenomenal and player of the week heading into the final week before the break. The question is, how do you best use him? We talked about the starting lineup and we kind of agreed that double big lineup was going to be the best. But I know that some people want to have Derrick White in the starting lineup. I think to maintain his level of assertiveness, aggression, however you want to call it, bringing him to the bench and having him play off Malcolm Brogdon and have those 2 together, that really allows the 2 of them, especially through the regular season. I think you can maximize. You can have a lot of the same Derrick White that you've had over the past few weeks because you're not forcing him to play completely off of Jaylen and Jayson and give up and have that compulsion to be like, well, I do have an open shot, but that's Jayson Tatum, and I'm just going to give it to him. take the opportunity, Joe Mazzulla, start a full bench lineup in some of these second quarters, and tell Derrick White and tell Malcolm Brogdon, you're our top two options right now. You're our number one and number two, whoever, number one A. Go out there, be aggressive, and you guys get to run up the score in the second quarter.
Yeah, what the Celtics need is another 1A controversy here. I think that's really what they want. No,
and Derrick White can go talk about his sacrifice.
That's exactly it. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think especially we talked about it yesterday when you start to kind of look ahead to like next season. I think that's when you're going to start to have some interesting conversations about where Derrick White slots in. Like, is he a starter? Is he not a starter? But I mean, I think we were off air yesterday. I was saying, I think when you look at Derrick White and you look at the things that he does, he just fills in all the cracks so nicely, right? Like if you have any problems in your starting, like in your lineup, right? Like do you need better guard defense? Do you need a guard to come in and block some shots? Like, do you need, do you need a guy who can reliably hit 3-pointers, but could also handle the ball in a pinch because maybe the other team is like putting some pressure on Smart. It's just like all the things that he does, it really does lend itself nicely to a bench role because like you have your bench players who come in and they're specialists and all that stuff. Derrick White is like the ultimate NBA generalist. Like whatever it is, like whatever hole there is in your lineup right now, Derrick White is the perfect guy for it. And I think that as we kind of come into this stretch run, when the playoffs hit, like problems get exposed that you don't know are there, right? Like because other teams, like they watch so much film on you and they find all of your little problems and then they just pick at them and pick at them and pick at them. Like, I always wonder if like, if the Heat are always kind of surprised by their defensive issues, like their matchup issues, when they come to because like, teams pick on them a little bit during the regular season, but in the playoffs, it's just so amplified because it's the same team over and over. Derrick White makes that so much harder because like the holes that you have in your lineup are just like, they're just much smaller. The cracks are like, they're just, when Derrick White is the guy who's kind of helping pour that concrete, you're in much, much better shape. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how that manifests over the next few weeks here.
Tom, would you say that Derrick White is like a glass of ice, and when you pour the water in, it just fills all of the cracks?
If I was Analogy Man, I would say that, yes. But I would hate to like have the DMCA on Twitter from Analogy Man. I would hate to have that. The copyright.
Yeah. For those who are wondering what that was about, Tom said that off the air yesterday. I was like, oh, that's Analogy Man quality stuff. Why didn't you say that when we were on? So,
yeah. Because I don't want to get copyrighted.
That's fair. But I wanted that to be said so I could give you credit because you deserve the credit for it. Look, man, I know it's a sacrifice podcast thing with me. I know you could go be a number one podcaster somewhere else, but I want to make sure that I'm a team first guy.
That's not true, man. I'm a little. I go a little too crazy when I'm the number one option. I go down too many Instagram rabbit holes. I can't be trusted.
Anything we need to do here, anything the Celtics need to do here to keep Derrick White with this mentality, I think is another. It really is a top priority here, player wise. Getting him to just feel good about shooting and being, taking those floaters, taking guys off the dribble. That any other weapon that you can throw out there is just that just crushes the defense. It just crushes the defense. And a defense is so focused. Now you put them out there with Tatum and Brown and those guys, and you make sure that they, look, Derrick, go, keep doing what you do, because then the defense is going to be like, oh, will you stop hitting me? Oh, wait, so here's the other guy that comes by. Like anything that gets the defense to turn around, it's going to be like Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker are fighting, and it's Darth Vader just kind of throwing things at him, force throwing things at him before he gets chucked out the window. You just got to keep throwing things at these guys, and the more you can throw at them, the less they're going to be able to do to like focus on you. So that's the Celtics. They're Darth Vader, and I'm very happy to make the Celtics Darth Vader. That's where you want to be. Ruthless, powerful, and hell-bent on winning. That's where the Celtics need to be.
Do you think Darth Vader would be happy if anybody else hoisted the Larry O'Brien trophy? I think not.
No, he wouldn't. He would choke. Let's wrap up with Grant Williams, because I think he's just critical to what the Celtics are going to have to do. And he's been up and down. And I don't know if the All-Star, or I should say the trade deadline, has been something that, as soon as they got close to it and maybe there was a realization like, no, I'm not going to get traded, then maybe that kind of lifted things up, because his last game or two were pretty good. Him coming in, shooting with confidence, when the ball goes to you, shoot the damn thing, which is, I know, something that Tom Westerholm wholly endorses. When the ball comes to you, shoot that thing, because you got to be the guy that makes shots. If you are out there taking shots when the ball comes to you, when Tatum gets off the ball, when Jaylen gets off the ball, reward them with the assist and make them feel good about giving up the ball. Because if you're not going to shoot it, and if you're not going to make that shot, the only thing you're going to do is encourage Tatum and Brown to go 1-on-2, 1-on-3, and we've seen how the turnovers and missed shots and missed layups turn into transition opportunities for the other team. So Grant Williams, critical, same as Derrick White, same as anybody out there that's shooting the ball. Catch, shoot, and then you can attack off the closeout, but catch and shoot, and then defensively be that versatile guy. Go out there, earn that money. You want that $20 million? Forget about everything you've done. Playoffs, this stretch in the playoffs, that's where you earn that overpay on the restricted free agent market.
It really is. It's so funny how critical Grant Williams, of all people, could be to the Celtics playoff run. Like not just, like they need him to make shots. They need him to be a versatile offensive and defensive threat, all that stuff. If he's doing all of that and the Celtics face the Bucks, and, maybe the Celtics end up, if the Celtics make it to the finals and maybe the Suns make it there too. We've seen how he defends Kevin Durant. We've seen how he defends Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, you talk about like an overpay for Grant Williams. He has a chance to get like wildly overpaid. If he puts together a really good stretch here, if he makes threes, honestly, at that point, it's not even an overpay, right? Like if you're making threes, if you're attacking closeouts, if you're defending Giannis Antetokounmpo and other guys of that caliber, at that point, it's not even really an overpay. It's just a fair contract for a very good NBA player. And I think, Grant has had a tough stretch. And like you said, he had a couple of nice games before the All-Star break, and maybe it was just the trade deadline. But there is a very, very good basketball player in there somewhere. And sometimes it comes out. A lot of times it does come out. He's had a tough stretch recently, but like he has it within himself to be a really excellent NBA role player. And if he is, the Celtics, between that and the 3-point, like the whole team 3-point shooting, those two things are the things that I think just make the Celtics unbeatable. Like if they're making threes, and if Grant Williams is himself, and if, those are the things that it's just like that team is just a force.
Oh yeah. So. Any team they shoot better than 40% from three, they're not going to lose that game. They're not going to lose that game. The one thing I'll say about Grant is he's been dealing with some injuries. He talked about, it was hard. He couldn't bend his right arm, he said, or he couldn't extend it, whatever it was. He was having some problems there. He had the shoulder subluxation a few weeks ago, so hopefully he's, the All-Star break helped with that. He was there in Utah. He was also, I should say congratulations to him, because he got an increased role in the players union. That was good. Yeah. First VP. That's really great. So he was there as part of that. So glad that Grant is in there and part of the negotiations. And as a couple of union guys here, we're very, very happy to see Celtics get involved in that for sure.
For sure.
But hopefully that break, get out there and get some treatment on that arm, and he can come back and be healthy. That's just so incredibly important. So everything else falls in line because Smart's going to be smart, and all of these, we can expect what we can expect from the starting lineup. Getting Rob right, but we know what Rob can bring. Derrick White and Grant Williams, those two guys. Malcolm Brogdon is a constant. If Derrick White and Grant Williams are at their best, holy crap, you're 8 deep with starter level talent. That is almost impossible to beat 4 times in 7 games. But if they're not, then that changes the dynamic, and we've seen what happens when those guys try to do too much. The 2 J's. So, that's what we're looking for, Tom.
What we're trying to say is it all comes down to Sam Hauser.
That's also, yes, that was the obvious through line. That's the big conclusion. That's the big, in conclusion, ipso facto.
Yes.
All right, Tom. Thanks for hopping on. Man.
Appreciate you.
Tom Westerholm at Tom_NBA, the _boys, John_Karalis on Twitter. Tell us what you think. Hop into the comments. What do you think? Tell us what your priorities are moving forward for the last 23 games of this season. Do you agree with what we've said? Do you not agree? Get onto that YouTube page, get into the comments, and have the discussion. Are we right? Are we wrong? Also, you can subscribe if you're just listening to, if you're putting on headphones and going for a run, going to the gym, if you're popping on a speaker in the shower or in the car, whatever it is, whatever app you decide to subscribe to podcasts with, subscribe to this one. To all you new listeners, thank you. Welcome aboard. Appreciate you checking the show out. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one enough to subscribe and to share the podcast. Tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.